Hi, everybody. Welcome to it's a conversation with Calvin, We the Species, but we are the Climate Optimist Group, Everything Not Fine. I'm rushing this because one of our participants today, Kevin Albin, who's been in this group from day one, is actually now talking to us from Borneo, Malaysia. And it's a 12-hour time difference. He's on the other side of the world. He's working in forests, doing studying birds, and we've known Kevin, Alan and I. We've known Kevin from day one. A little bit of I did get a chance to read Kevin's novel, which is kind of amazing. Stone Child. I read it, haunting, a bit dystopian, but haunting. So I don't want to take a lot of time. This is really important, and then we'll go back and introduce everybody. But Kevin, why don't you just do a little background and talk about the thing about climate solutions that mean something to you. Take it away, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thanks, Calvin. Thanks, everybody. And I'm sorry it's a bit pushed and a bit rushed, but in a nutshell, I'm a mountain guide and expedition leader. I have been for the last 20 years. I've been involved in taking people all over the world and took that as an opportunity of trying to convince them about climate change, biodiversity loss, and those sorts of things. Just generally drip feeding them to how we can live a better life. I'm currently working at a field centre called Danau Girang in the heart of Borneo, not too far from the Kinabatangan River. It's a research and training centre. The sort of things that we're up to is we've got some pangolins, the most trafficked animal in the world. We've collared them, and we track them on a daily basis to see how they're living their lives and what they're involved in. We've done the same with some cats, both flat-headed cats and the clouded leopard. We are also taking soil samples on a regular basis, looking at carbon sequestration and to find out whether it's getting worse or getting better, those sorts of things. So it's an exciting time to be in the forest, and I'm here for the next 2 months. So that's me in a nutshell. So the question is what is the one thing that I truly believe in that will make a difference to our current crisis? And my answer to that will be the fossil fuel industry. And the reason for that is I see them as globally enormous, extremely powerful, more powerful than any of our governments. You've only got to look at their lobbying capacity at COP, for example, their capacity to manipulate markets and influence us. They have us completely highly dependent on their product. They are extremely wealthy, but at the same time, they have the capacity with their scientists to change things. They can find solutions. And in my view, we need to stop seeing them as the enemy and work with them and convince them to say, look, we're in dire straits. And the reason for it is fairly irrelevant. We've got to look at the solutions, and we've got to convince them to say, right, how do we get out of this mess? How you're the people with the expertise, you're the people with the disposable cash. How do we actually convince you to, because after all, their employees are human beings, the same as us. They're going to suffer the same fate. And it's a very poor business model to keep trying to sell a product that's eventually going to kill its buyers, its purchasers. So I suspect they'll have realized that, and there'll come a time when they'll suddenly say, okay, we'll invest in renewables and carbon capture and everything else that goes with it. And whereas I see that there is a place for everything else, the recycling and the way we live our lives, all of that has got to change. That's undeniable. But in my mind, unless we curb the greenhouse gases and our fossil fuel dependence, we're not going to get anywhere. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope that makes sense. And for my mind, I wish I could sit down with them. I've quoted many times on other podcasts that I think the fossil fuel industry could be the hero of the moment, without a doubt. And it's if we could convince them and work with them to change things, they're the ones that could make a massive amount of difference. that bang, I think, is a macaque throwing stuff down from a tree that you've just heard. So, excellent. That's my input. Thanks, Calvin.
Wow. Kevin, thank you for being here. I mean, you know, it's 11 o'clock at night there in the Borneo, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, you're 10,000 miles away. This is great. You stay around, hang around as long as you can. Now we're gonna go
Okay.
back formally and introduce our panelists, and then we'll go back and talk about each individual's climate solution topic. Alan Hesse, and it's funny, Alan, myself, Kevin, we kind of started this, and Gaetano was, you know, kind of at the beginning too. This little climate group, which is, you know, several years old, and we've endured, and we're still doing our thing. So anyway, Alan, take it away, intro, and then we'll just kind of go around.
Sure, thanks, Calvin, and so glad to see everybody. Hi, everybody. So good to see you. Well, I'm based in Ecuador. I'm a conservation biologist, much like Kevin, and I've been working in Latin America on conservation for 30 years, and different environments, a lot of Amazon work as well. But I really got into climate and climate education specifically after talking to some farmers in the Andes at my last job, when I realized they were on the cutting edge, really on the edge of the impacts of local climate events. And I realized my team and myself knew nothing about climate change. This is around 2015. It wasn't in the news as it is today. And I decided that I needed to learn about it. And I'm also a cartoonist as a parallel career. And so I decided to leverage that ability, and I started creating a series of comic books about climate change for kids, but also for adults, actually. And that created a brand, which is the Captain Polo Academy, which is now my brand for not only graphic novels and comic books about climate change, but also conservation education and all kinds of climate literacy projects with schools and other educational institutions. So, you know, that's me in a nutshell. I thought long and hard about the climate question today. Kevin, I think you've really kind of hit the nail on the head. Unquestionably, the fossil fuel angle is the one to think about, and I agree with you completely that they could be turned around. And I think there are some instances of that already happening. But I'm going to go with another big climate area, which is food. Food production is 24% of the problem. If you look at the global greenhouse gas emissions, the land use, forestry and food, the agriculture, forestry and land use sector, to be accurate, it accounts for 24% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That rivals the generation of electricity at 25%, which mainly comes still from fossil fuels. So the other way of looking at it is through food systems. And what I love about this angle is that food is something that touches us all. It doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how poor you are, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter where you live. You all need to eat. And even little kids need to eat. And so I'm going to go with the climate solution of limiting food waste, to be precise. Food waste is listed by Project Drawdown, which is the top global think tank for climate solutions. It's listed along with going with more plant-based diets. It's equally as important to avoid food waste. That is listed as the #1 climate solution for individuals that individuals can actually get hold of. It may be difficult for individuals such as ourselves to lobby fossil fuel companies, for example, but we can all make a difference when we look at our plate of food. And if we avoid food waste, we're eliminating a big part of the problem, because get this, 30% of all the food produced in the world is wasted. 30%. That is unacceptable. It's massive. I'm not just talking about restaurants, I'm talking about airlines, I'm talking about hotel chains. You know, 30% of the food is wasted. A lot of what isn't sold in supermarkets, if it's not a perfectly shaped apple, it gets thrown out. So this is a huge area for awareness and for behavior change. And so for that reason, I'm going to go with let's avoid food waste as my climate solution. Although I have to say there is no single climate solution. It's a myth that there's a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet. We have to do it all across all sectors. But you know, we have to start with something. So let's go with food waste. Thank you.
Okay, just to dovetail what you just did, and it's a bit of a promotion commercial, but I wrote an article. It's coincidental. We didn't plan this. I wrote an article called "Climate Change: Our Changing Menu."
Wow.
Here, yeah. I
Great.
interviewed Dr. Michael Hoffman. He's a world famous. He's a world. You introduced me to him, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I introduced, and this is the article I wrote for a magazine here in New Jersey, and I also posted it on my new website, which is about 4 days old, called calvinschwartz.com.
Congratulations.
It talks about our changing menu. It's rather horrific, and according to Dr. Michael Hoffman, what you just said, Alan, we all got to eat. We all need food, and it's disappearing. It's rather horrific, but you can see it calvinschwartz.com. That's also, I interviewed Dr. Hoffman also on Conversation with Calvin, We the Species. Okay, Samantha, take it away.
Thank you, Calvin. Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Waldron. I'm based in New Jersey, United States. I'm an environmental remediation scientist protecting human health and the environment by cleaning up the contamination that is carcinogenic, and it's in our water, soil, and air. And the things that give me hope about protecting human health and the environment are community gardens, local recycling guidance, embracing a circular economy, thrifting, trading, repurposing, and repairing clothing and items, de-influencing and reducing consumption of plastic and harmful products, exploring and investing in ethical, sustainable brands instead of cheap and disposable, and the spiritual influence of taking care of the planet that takes care of us and the intersections of social impacts and issues.
Great. That's great. And by the way, you know, we met and how we met, and you got so involved in this, and your passion as being a true member of, I guess you're still qualified as Gen Z, correct?
I'm gonna say I'm on the cusp.
You're on the cusp.
Everybody's saying something different until I figure it out.
Okay, well, I mean that is so key to have, you know, Gen Z on the cusp, whatever, to be part of the dialogue and part of the thinking. So thank you for all your passion and energy in contributing. Moving on to Jenny Nichols, who's kind of new to the group, but because of Samantha introduced Jenny, and you know, your resume is amazing, and the fact that you were the founder of gogreenlocally.org, which is an amazing resource, but you tell about it. Take it away, Jenny.
Thank you, Calvin. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate. I would love.
Can you raise your volume? It's a little hard to hear.
Is that any better?
Better.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And yeah, I'd like to say that we're just a small nonprofit, but we have, you know, a mission that we feel is big, and that is to just help people inform and give them the resources and support they need to take action, whether it's on sustainability or action to clean, protect, and restore the environment. So I think all of like what you have all mentioned in different ways, we are all part of the solution as long as we step up and take ownership of some aspect of it. So I think many people, the concept of taking on climate change can be overwhelming, but there are so many different aspects that we can own something that we feel more passionate about, more connected, and some aspect of ourselves that we can contribute and we enjoy working with others. And so as has already been brought up, there are many different ways of participating. And one of the ways that I feel is very hopeful is Miyawaki forestry. This allows a forest to grow 10 times faster than a normal forest, and it's all native species. They're being grown in urban areas and sometimes outer areas. A recent study is a factory that had a lot of emissions. It, according to their calculations, the forest that they planted adjacent to the factory was able to absorb 60% of the emissions from that factory.
Wow.
So if we exponentially increase the forests that we have the capacity to, alongside with local food systems, if we really focus on whole foods and also on how we're growing those foods, it's very important. We can do regenerative agriculture, which helps us absorb a lot more carbon into the soil and keep it in the soil by using no-till and a whole host of other types of farming, agroforestry, and silver pasturing. Local food systems, that's integrating into that, and also food waste. One of the largest contributing aspects to global warming is methane, releasing methane. So if we take what is just like food scraps and we're composting that, whether we're composting that as a household doing worm composting or we're rather doing it municipally, that's another big opportunity to reduce our emissions. And then just living more locally and really having greater appreciation and valuing what we have so that we don't need to always have more and more and more to fill that hole within ourselves, to really reach out to each other and become stronger communities, to look out for each other. Excuse me. And then also alternative wood sourcing. I think we don't need to be destroying the forest that we have, whether it's rainforest or it's the forests up in Canada and other areas. So I think there's a lot of wonderful training going on that's helping farmers in the rainforest areas to farm successfully in their small footprint without having to take down additional forests. That's another really hopeful thing. There's a lot of work by like Suzanne Samard that really understands preserving mother trees when you're cutting forests so that those forests can bounce back and grow back very quickly by not destroying the main forest, the trees that can really help those trees to regrow back. So there's a lot of wonderful different types of technology that exist while we're working with nature, and really making sure that we're letting that narration come to the forefront and not just focusing on ones that are solutions that are making mega corporations richer, but that we're really protecting our biodiversity and protecting each other. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share.
No, thank you, Jenny. Really, thank you for being here. Gaetano Lardieri.
Hey, Calvin, thank you for the invite, and hello, everyone, and I support everyone's comments here. I'm Gaetano Lardieri from Newark, New Jersey, USA. Just a little bit about me. I've been in the medical field since 1978. I spent 26 years in cancer research, and the last 10 years I've been in the cannabis and psychedelic space. So the way to address climate change, at least from my end, is to impact emerging markets. And the two emerging markets right now globally are cannabis and psychedelics. With cannabis, it takes a lot of energy to grow, and water and just basically overall pulls stuff from the area. So I'm working with a couple companies to innovate ingenuity into those companies to mitigate that. And then with on the psychedelics and mushrooms, right, for sustainability, I mean, we're talking, let's start making more clothing from mushrooms. Let's start making more furniture. There's so many, there's mushroom cosmetics. So there's so many things to be done with mushrooms on that end. So I'm looking to influence from my end those two emerging industries that I'm very, very heavily involved with. The other areas too is human ingenuity. I have a Lean Six Sigma background. I'm an expert in that area. And if you do a little bit each day at the end of the assembly line, you make a big difference when you're talking about incremental changes. And the other thing, call to action I'd ask everyone to do is look up Elon, talking about human ingenuity, look up Elon Musk's X Prize, the letter X Prize. That's a $100 million prize supported by Elon Musk where they're looking for teams, scientific teams and other teams to come up with best solutions to remove millions of carbon from the earth. So again, they are tap into human ingenuity, make those little changes every day, and I think we can make collectively a major impact on climate change. Thank you for the invite.
Okay, I'm Calvin Schwartz, and on April 22nd, 1970, the first Earth Day, I got infused with this necessity of making changes. So I've been conscious about everything, and I've pondered everything since 1970. So I'm a 50-year guy. Now I chose, and I'm fascinated by this, and Kevin briefly touched into this, carbon capture. That fascinated me, and so I've been to prepare for this. I've been diving into this world of carbon capture. Carbon capture is, and interestingly, Kevin, you talked about fossil fuels. A lot of the fossil fuel companies have financed a lot of these projects. So at the point, at the industrial point, they capture, where the carbon dioxide is being produced in an industrial process. They've come up with techniques. They've come up with techniques to capture some of the carbon, and they're able to capture like 20%. Very expensive, and then they take that from the industrial site and they stick it into the earth. Now there's a problem that arises from that, how safe and how healthy that is. So that's and again, to their credit, you touched on that, Kevin. To their credit, they're spending billions to mitigate the carbon. Samantha, you have a hand raised. Why don't you jump in? We don't hear you. We don't hear you. Okay.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. We can edit that out. I really appreciate you giving me this moment real quick. I just realized an amazing point that you guys were all making, you and Kevin and Alan, connecting with fossil fuel companies, manufacturing companies, and chemical manufacturers, that those millions and billions of dollars are also going into remediation. And by remediating the contamination from harmful chemicals and items, we are also improving the health of the planet so that the planet can cleanse itself naturally. Just like with Jenny was saying, with absorption of contamination through plants, which is also known as phyto or bioremediation, bacteria, microorganisms, all of these things clean up the contamination, which enables our planet to absorb more carbon as well. And community gardens do this as well, whether it's planting trees or, planting food, like bouncing off of what Alan was saying earlier about food and feeding the communities. These are all amazing points. They're all intersectional, and we can all work together using all of these solutions, because just like Kevin and Alan and everybody's saying, there's no such thing as a one trick or one thing that can make everything all better. It's everybody has to be involved. Nobody's exempt. Nobody's too old, too young, too anything, because if everyone works together, we can all make a positive impact. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Of course. Gaetano.
Just another quick shameless plug for hemp and mushrooms. They've been used throughout the world for remediation. So there's another possible solution. They're used in all these sites where there's radioactive fallout and so on. So again, human ingenuity, and tap into the natural resources that God has provided on planet Earth, the hemp and the mushrooms.
Okay. Continuing, the carbon capture at a plant site, it takes about 20% of the carbon out. And Jenny had touched about forestation and forests. It takes about 20 years. Trees are a great resource to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, but it takes 20 years for a tree to grow up and be able to contribute. So that's a long, long, long time. Now, the thing that really intrigued me is what they're doing in Iceland. They're sucking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and they're taking that carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and they're mixing it with some stuff, making a pretty good cement for roads. That's an option. But in my reading, if we were to remove a tremendous amount, there's a group in South Korea that's doing research, and it kind of scared me. So if everybody puts up these smokestacks and it sucks out carbon dioxide, if we were to move a substantial amount of carbon dioxide, that wouldn't have an effect on our climate for about 140 years, even if we bring the carbon dioxide to levels, almost pre-industrial age. So that's what their preliminary studies are saying. Even if tomorrow we suck it all out of the atmosphere, it's not going to make climatologically a big change. This is what their research is saying. And as we, and again, I'm reading things I don't necessarily understand. Is something called a Hadley cell. It kind of determines, you may know about that, Samantha, but it determines a climate and moisture. So as we're changing our planet, and humidity and moisture is getting pushed further up north, so that areas like the Mediterranean, which is getting hotter and drier, are going to continue to get hotter and drier, and that could take hundreds of years to reverse. If now, my last comment, this is all research. I did do a panel. I did do an interview, and I talked about it with an AI specialist on how much AI is going to help us deal with climate. Bottom line is, on this area that I'm talking about, carbon capture and what's going on in Iceland, the truth is nobody knows. Nobody knows the answer because it's all conjecture, it's all research, and we're talking about Mother Earth, and we just don't know, but it ain't good. I mentioned this I think to Kevin when he first got on. I just read last night, and we can we'll jump into this, but 2 billion with a B, 2 billion snow crabs in Alaska have died. They're gone. They finally figured out why. Last night, I read the article. 2 billion snow crabs. Why? Because the water is warmer, and they can't survive in warmer water up in Alaska, so they're gone. Anyway, so we've done the preliminary part of this, and we can now segue to an open discussion if we'd like, because there's no rules here. We can just open it up and chat about Kevin, Alan.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I just want to lead on from your discussion about carbon capture, and going back to the points that you were making, Jenny. There's using Earth itself for carbon capture, using nature itself is actually a much faster, I believe, more viable way of getting it done than spending billions of dollars on expensive technology that sucks carbon out of the air, which is also, by the way, very contentious in climate circles. There are a lot of people who are against it, and with good reason. There are a lot of hidden traps with that, and it's kind of in climate terms what they call a high regrets action, as opposed to a low regrets action. And this is climate terminology in climate science. And a low regrets action or a zero regrets action is an action that achieves the climate mitigation aim, but has no other risks. It has no risks. In other words, it has a lot of co-benefits. And so favoring reforestation, of course, on the right soils and in the right place and with the right species, very important. Doesn't always work everywhere, but when you get it right, and also restoring mangroves, for example, restoring mangroves, restoring seagrass, all that blue carbon, wetlands, even savannas actually store a huge amount of carbon, more than forests. And all of those are low regret actions because they have so many benefits. It may not achieve, it will achieve the carbon mitigation aim, but it would also favor biodiversity. It will enrich the soil, etc., etc. So carbon capture, I think, is a really interesting area. I'm so glad you touched upon that, Calvin. And it is with, you can do it with technology, but you can also do it just by letting nature do its work, and giving it a helping hand.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in there because I've got to be up in 5 hours. So I'm going to make this my last comment and then bail out if I may. Really support all of that. I think Alan's spot on with letting the planet do it. Interestingly, I was working here in Borneo on what was heralded as the largest biodiversity project in the world run by the Royal Society back in 2003. We planted 22,000 trees to see how they would grow. They've since learned from a lot of lessons from there, in that you can't just leave the trees, that the variety of trees such as pioneer species that form the canopy very, very quickly are crucial to the longer, slower growing trees, because that allows them to grow stronger. The faster they grow, the weaker they are. So there's an awful lot of learning going on about how to make this work. And I think there's a lot of merit in the things that we're discovering at the moment. You touched on how long it would take to come back to normal. I trained, as you know, under former Vice President Al Gore as a climate reality leader. He talks about, and frequently he talks about that once we stop this destructive process, we will see effects within 5 years. And he seems very adamant about that. So maybe there's a different side to the coin. So let me just say, really nice to be on this call. Thank you so much, everyone. Keep up the good fight. It's really pleasant, really pleased to meet other new people. And I'll tap into you again as soon as I possibly can. All the best,
Kevin,
everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for being here, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
You have a good night.
Thanks.
We're all just
cheers.
Asleep.
Well, Kevin.
Watch out for the mosquitoes.
Yes.
There's plenty of those, Alan, I tell you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I know.
So
we'll
just hey, now we've got I can stop recording now. Yes, Jenny, go ahead, say something.
I just want to jump in and say something really quickly. You do kind of need to check into Miyawaki forestry. It grows 10 times faster than a normal.
What is that called?
Miyawaki, Miywaki, and it is amazing technology. So within 2 to 3 years, even in a very hyper arid environment, it can go on its own. So it has to be watered the first 2 to 3 years, but 10 times faster. So you're getting what's established as a 100-year forest in 10 years. Wow. So that's why the capacity of that type of forestry really does have amazing benefits. So and it's working with soil bacteria in the ground, which is an super important part, but it's also growing it very close together. So it's different than standard forestry is. So I just have to say.
That is amazing.
Great. And I'll have for folks when I put this together, which I hope to have this up and I'll share it with everybody, but people should absolutely go check out your site and the work that you do. So I'll have everybody's bio and all of that, and I'm really so appreciative that you're here as a result of Samantha and you're interacting. Alan, I'm glad you're here. I was reading about your new president last night.
Oh yeah.
He's the banana guy.
The banana guy. The
banana guy. Your new president. Do you like him? Do you like him?
I don't know him. Here we have a situation where the number one priority is not getting shot. So people like the climate discourse here is not on the radar, because the president is saying we're going to stop people getting shot, which is what most people care about first. So the climate discourse is not on the map where I live, which makes my work all the more challenging and exciting, actually, because I'm trying to put it on the map. But anyway, I also need to wrap up, Calvin, now. I haven't had breakfast yet, believe it or not. But I just want to make a suggestion for the editing part of this video. It's been quite long.
Yeah.
And remember what we said about social media? We can't have
I know,
like
I
30
know.
minutes of talking heads. So here's a suggestion, and I can help you with this if you don't have time. Why don't we divide up this recording into individual participants?
Should I?
Spiel.
Hey, listen, I'm
And-
game for anything that you. I'm game.
So we can have just Jenny speaking, and that's one video. Then Gaetano speaking, that's one video. Then you speaking, that's one video. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And each video can have its little subtitles and its little title, but it's all part of the package. It's part of this. Because if you launch out this video as it is, no one's going to look at it. Too long.
I know.
Yeah, we always have that problem.
We're still recording. You know, I'm going to stop recording right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Wait, and then we
So
can.
I can help you. I can